The warning lights came on too late. Captain Ji-won Kang grabbed the controls as her cargo ship shook violently. The metal groaned around her. Through the front window, she could see nothing but white. Snow and ice filled the sky. "We're going down," Dae-hyun shouted from the co-pilot seat. His hands flew over the control panel, trying to stop what could not be stopped. Ji-won said nothing. She focused on keeping the ship level. The moon called Valkor 7 was famous for its storms. The ice storms could destroy anything. They had flown through dozens of these runs before. This time was different. Something had broken their ship's systems. An electromagnetic pulse from deep in the moon's core had fried everything electronic. The ground rushed up at them. Ji-won pulled hard on the manual controls. The ship tilted, screamed, and crashed into the ice field. Metal tore. Glass shattered. The impact threw Ji-won forward against her safety harness. Pain shot through her chest. Then everything went still. For a moment, Ji-won just breathed. Each breath hurt. She looked over at Dae-hyun. He was slumped forward, blood on his forehead. "Dae-hyun!" She unclipped her harness and reached for him. His eyes opened slowly. "I'm okay," he said, but his voice was weak. He tried to move and gasped. "My leg. I think it's broken." Ji-won checked him quickly. Broken leg. Probably broken ribs too. They needed shelter fast. Outside the cracked window, the storm was getting worse. The temperature was already dropping. She helped Dae-hyun out of his seat. Every movement made him groan with pain. The back of the ship was crushed, but the emergency shelter was still intact. Ji-won dragged Dae-hyun to it and activated the power. A small bubble of warmth appeared around them. It wouldn't last long. The ship's power cells were damaged. "Try the radio," Dae-hyun said through gritted teeth. Ji-won already knew what she would find. The long-range radio was dead. The emergency beacon was dead. Everything was dead. They were 3 days from the research station. 3 days in perfect weather. In this storm, it might as well be on another planet. She set Dae-hyun's leg as best she could. She wrapped his ribs. He tried not to scream. When she was done, they both sat in silence, listening to the wind howl outside. "My kids," Dae-hyun said quietly. "Minji is 7. Taeyang is 4. I was supposed to be home in 2 weeks. Ji-won looked at him. She had no children. She had made sure of that. Getting close to people meant losing people. She had learned that lesson 15 years ago when her brother died in the snow. She had been 18. He had been only 12. She couldn't save him then. The avalanche had been too fast. "We'll get through this," she said, but she wasn't sure she believed it. The first night was long. The storm never stopped. The shelter held, but barely. By morning, their supplies looked grim. Food for maybe 5 days. Water for 3 if they were careful. The medical supplies were limited. And Dae-hyun couldn't walk. On the second day, Ji-won heard something strange. Through the howling wind, there were other sounds. Voices. No, not voices. Howls. Deep, mournful howls that made her chest tighten. She looked through the shelter's small window. In the distance, through the blowing snow, she saw shapes. Large shapes. They moved on 2 legs like humans, but they were much bigger. 8 feet tall at least. Covered in thick fur. Wolf-like heads with long snouts. Valkorians. The native species of this moon. Ji-won had seen them before from a distance at the research station. Humanity had made contact with them 3 years ago. The relationship was polite but cold. The Valkorians thought humans were too weak for their world. Too small. Too fragile. The Valkorians were searching for something. They moved across the ice field in a pattern, calling out. The sounds they made were heartbreaking. Ji-won had done search and rescue for 5 years before becoming a pilot. She knew what those sounds meant. They were looking for someone they had lost. The Valkorians disappeared into the storm. Their howls faded. Ji-won sat back down, troubled. Something had been lost in this storm. Something important. That night the storm finally weakened. Not much, but enough. Ji-won couldn't sleep. She kept hearing those howls in her mind. She got up and put on her thermal suit. Dae-hyun was asleep, his breathing rough but steady. She stepped outside the shelter. The cold hit her like a wall even through the suit. The wind pushed her back. She turned on her thermal scanner and swept it across the area. The ship's crash had torn up the ice. There were cracks everywhere. The scanner picked up something. Heat signatures. Small ones. About 50 meters away. Ji-won's heart started beating faster. She moved toward the signals, her boots crunching in the snow. She found a crevasse. a crack in the glacier that was almost hidden by snow. The heat signatures were coming from inside. Ji-won got on her stomach and looked down. Her headlamp cut through the darkness. 5 small bodies huddled together at the bottom. Cubs. Valkorian cubs. They were barely moving. Their fur was covered in frost. They were dying. Ji-won pulled back from the edge. Her mind raced. These must be what the Valkorians were searching for. The storm must have swept them away. They had fallen into this crack. For 2 days they had been down there in the cold. She should go back to the shelter. She should focus on keeping herself and Daehyun alive. These cubs weren't human. Their parents were out there somewhere, but she had no way to signal them. The smart thing was to leave. Ji-won looked back at the shelter. Then she looked at the crevasse. In her mind, she saw her brother's face. She saw all the children she had pulled from snow and ice over the years. She saw the ones she couldn't save, the ones who haunted her dreams. She activated her radio. "Daehyun, are you awake?" His voice came back groggy. "Yeah, what's wrong?" "I found the Valkorian cubs. 5 of them. They're in a crevasse. They won't last much longer." Silence. "Then, can you reach them?" "Maybe. They're deep. It will take time. Equipment. Ji-won." Daehyun's voice was careful. "We barely have enough for ourselves." "I know." More silence. Then Daehyun said, "My daughter is 7. My son is 4. If they were lost in the ice, if someone found them, I would want them to try. No matter what it cost." Ji-won closed her eyes. When she opened them, her decision was made. "I'm going to get them out," she said. "All of them. Then I'll prepare what we have. Hurry back. We'll build whatever you need." Ji-won looked down into the crevasse one more time. The cubs were so small, so helpless. They were depending on someone to save them. They didn't know that someone would be a human, a species their parents thought was weak. Ji-won turned and walked back to the shelter. She had work to do. The storm was returning. She didn't have much time. But she would save those cubs. She would save them all or die trying. Because that was what humans did. When children were in danger, humans didn't calculate the odds. They didn't worry about species or survival. They just acted. It was humanity's greatest weakness, and it was humanity's greatest strength. The pack mourned their cubs until the human walked in, covered in snow, carrying them all. Part 2. Ji-won worked fast. Her hands moved over the equipment they had salvaged from the crashed ship. Daehyun sat propped against the wall, directing her even though pain showed on his face with every breath. They built a sled from cargo containers. The metal was bent but strong. Ji-won attached emergency blankets to create a bed. She packed portable heaters, the kind used for warming cargo. Each heater was precious. They only had 3. "You'll need rope," Daehyun said. He pointed to the cargo straps. "Make a harness. Something to lower yourself down and pull the cubs up." Ji-won nodded. She worked in silence, braiding the straps together. Her mind was focused. This was like her old job. Search and rescue in the mountains. She had done this 100 times. But never alone. Never in conditions this bad. "The storm is coming back," Daehyun warned. He was watching the weather monitor. "You have maybe 2 hours. Then I better move fast." Ji-won pulled on her thermal suit. She added every warm layer they had. She took stimulant drugs from the medical kit. They would keep her alert and warm her body from inside. They were dangerous if used too long, but she didn't plan to be out long. Daehyun grabbed her hand. "Be careful. Those cubs need you, but I need you too. Come back." Ji-won squeezed his hand once. Then she was gone, pulling the sled behind her into the wind. The 50 meters to the crevasse felt like 50 kilometers. The wind pushed against her. Snow filled her goggles. She counted her steps to keep from getting lost. 47, 48, 49, 50. She found the crevasse and secured her rope to a piece of the ship's wreckage nearby. The metal was frozen into the ice. It would hold. She hoped it would hold. Ji-won clipped the rope to her harness and began to descend. The walls of the crevasse were pure ice, smooth and slippery. Her boots struggled to find purchase. She went down slowly, carefully. 1 meter. 2 meters. 5 meters. At 15 meters, she reached the bottom. The cubs were there, huddled in a small alcove. They were bigger than she expected. Each one was about the size of a large dog, maybe 30 kilograms. Their fur was thick but matted with ice. Ji-won approached slowly. The cubs stirred. Yellow eyes opened and watched her. They made small sounds. Frightened sounds, but they were too weak to move away. "It's okay," Ji-won said softly, though she knew they couldn't understand. "I'm going to help you." She pulled out the thermal blankets and began wrapping the cubs. She had to warm them slowly. Too fast and their bodies would go into shock. She worked methodically, warming one cub at a time. Her hands were already going numb despite the gloves. The smallest cub made a weak sound when she touched it. Its little tongue came out and licked her glove once. Then it went still again. Ji-won felt something in her chest tighten. This one reminded her of her brother. Small, vulnerable, depending on her. "I won't let you down," she whispered. "I promise." Getting the cubs up was harder than going down. Ji-won had rigged a pulley system, but it still required all her strength. She secured the first cub in a sling and began to haul. Pull, rest, pull, rest. Her muscles burned. The rope cut into her hands even through the gloves. 20 minutes later, the first cub reached the surface. Ji-won climbed up behind it and dragged it to the sled. Then she went down again. And again, and again. On the third trip, disaster struck. A piece of the ice wall broke away. It fell past Ji-won, missing her by centimeters. The whole crevasse groaned. More ice cracked. Ji-won pressed herself against the wall and waited. Her heart pounded in her ears. Dae-hyun's voice crackled in her earpiece. "Ji-won, what happened?" "Your vitals spiked." "Icefall," she managed to say. "I'm okay. Keep talking to me." "You're doing great," Dae-hyun said. His voice was strained but steady. "2 more to go. You can do this. Tell me about your brother." Ji-won continued climbing down. She knew what Dae-hyun was doing. Keeping her mind occupied. Keeping her human. His name was Jae-sung. He loved the snow. That's why we were in the mountains that day. "Tell me more," Dae-hyun said. She hauled the 4th cub up while talking about her brother, about how he laughed, about how he wanted to be a mountain climber, about how the avalanche came so fast there was no time to run, about how she dug through the snow with her bare hands until they bled, about how it wasn't enough. "That's why you became rescue," Dae-hyun said quietly. "That's why I became rescue." Ji-won descended one last time. The smallest cub was waiting. It looked up at her with those yellow eyes. It made a small sound, almost like it was saying hello. "Last one," Ji-won said. She wrapped the cub carefully and secured it. "Let's go home." The final ascent took everything she had. Her arms shook. Her legs trembled. When she reached the top and pulled the last cub onto the ice, she collapsed beside it. She lay there in the snow, unable to move. The wind howled around her. "Ji-won." Dae-hyun's voice was urgent. "You need to move." "The storm is coming." She could see it in the distance. A wall of white, the full force of Valcor 7's fury returning. She had minutes, maybe less. Ji-won forced herself to her feet. She loaded the last cub onto the sled with the others. 5 cubs, 150 kilograms of weight. She clipped the sled to her harness and began to pull. The sled didn't want to move. The runners caught in the ice. Ji-won leaned forward, putting her whole body into it. The sled jerked forward, 1 meter. Then another. The shelter was only 50 meters away. It might as well have been on another planet. Each step was agony. The wind pushed her backward. Snow piled up against the sled, making it heavier. Ji-won's vision started to blur. The stimulants were wearing off. Exhaustion was taking over. 20 meters from the shelter, she fell. The harness jerked her down into the snow. The cub slid off the sled. Ji-won lay face down in the ice. Her body wouldn't respond. She tried to get up. Her arms wouldn't work. Her legs wouldn't work. This was it. This was where it ended. She had tried. That had to count for something. "Ji-won, get up!" Dae-hyun was screaming in her ear. "You're so close. Please get up!" In her mind, Ji-won saw faces. Her brother. The children she had saved over the years. The ones she couldn't save. The ones who died while she dug through snow and ice. All those small, trusting faces. She thought of Dae-hyun's children. Minji and Tae-yang. They deserved to see their father again. She thought of the 5 cubs lying in the snow behind her. They deserved to see their parents again. Ji-won's hand moved. Then her other hand. She pushed herself up onto her knees. Then onto her feet. She turned around and picked up the cubs one by one, placing them back on the sled. Her movements were mechanical. Automatic. She grabbed the harness and pulled. One step, another step. The shelter was so close. She could see Dae-hyun's face through the transparent material. He was crying 10 meters, 5 meters, 3 meters. Ji-won collapsed through the shelter entrance, pulling the sled behind her. The cubs tumbled inside. Dae-hyun dragged them away from the door. Ji-won couldn't move. She lay on the floor, her vision darkening. "I got them," she whispered. "All of them." Then everything went black. Theron stood at the edge of the ice field. His pack surrounded him. 8 warriors. All of them exhausted. All of them defeated. They had searched for 3 days. 3 days of calling into the storm. 3 days of finding nothing. The cubs were gone. His 3 sons, 2 daughters from other pack members, all gone. Taken by the storm while they played near the glacier. Theron had been leading a hunt. He should have been watching them. "This was his fault, leader," said Cairo, the youngest warrior. "We should return to the den. The storm is building again. If we stay out here, we will die too." Theron wanted to keep searching, but Cairo was right. No cub could survive 3 days in these conditions. It was time to face reality. It was time to mourn. "We return," Theron said. His voice was hollow, empty. The pack walked back to their den in silence. Other pack members waited there. They saw the warriors return without the cubs. The howling began, mournful, heartbreaking. The sound of parents who had lost their children. Theron's sister Mira approached him. She was the pack's healer. She had lost her own cub years ago in another storm. She knew this pain. "Brother," she said softly. "This is not your fault." Theron said nothing. He walked away from the pack. He climbed to the highest point of the den and looked out at the ice fields. Somewhere out there, his sons lay in the snow. He had failed them. He had failed as a father. He had failed as a leader. Hours passed. The pack mourned below. Theron stood alone above, frozen in more than just body. He could not mourn. The pain was too deep for sound. Then Cairo came running up. His ears were alert. His tail was up. "Leader!" My receiver picked up a signal. "A transmission." "From the research station?" Theron asked without hope. The human research station often sent messages. They were always offers to trade or talk. Theron had always refused. "No," Cairo said. "From nearby. Very close. And the message," he hesitated. "It says cubs alive." Theron grabbed the device from Cairo's hand. He read the message. It was in human language translated by the device. "Cubs alive. Human shelter. Coordinates attached." "This makes no sense," Theron growled. "This must be a mistake. Or a trap. A trap for what purpose?" Mira had followed Cairo up. "Humans have never shown aggression." "And the coordinates. They are near where the human ship crashed." Theron felt something stir in his chest. Hope. Dangerous, painful hope. "The ship crashed 3 days ago, near where we lost the cubs." "It could be coincidence," Cairo said, but his tail was wagging slightly. He wanted to believe too. Mira looked at her brother. "What if it is true? What if our cubs are alive? Can you ignore this chance no matter how small?" Theron made his decision. "We go now, all warriors. If this is a trick, I will destroy their shelter myself. If it is true." He couldn't finish the sentence. The pack moved quickly. 8 warriors following the coordinates. The crashed ship came into view first. Broken, scattered across the ice. Then they saw the shelter. A small bubble of transparent material. Through it, Theron could see shapes. 5 small shapes, cubs, his cubs, moving, alive. Theron's heart nearly stopped. They were alive. But they were with humans. 2 small humans. Why, how? Rage and joy mixed in his chest. His cubs were alive. But what had these humans done to them? Why were they here? "Open the shelter," Theron commanded. His voice shook the air. Inside, one of the humans tried to stand. A male. He collapsed immediately. His leg was wrong, broken. The other human, a female, was lying on the floor. She stirred slowly. Her movements were weak. The cubs heard Theron's voice. They began crying out, trying to reach the entrance, calling for their pack. Theron could not wait. He tore open the shelter entrance and pushed inside. The space was too small for his 8-foot frame. He had to crouch. The other warriors crowded behind him. His 3 sons were there, wrapped in strange blankets, thin, weak, but alive. Theron's anger blazed. What had these humans done? Had they taken his cubs? Caused this somehow? The female human managed to sit up. She looked at Theron. Her eyes were dark with exhaustion. Her hands were wrapped in bandages. She spoke, and a device on her belt translated, "Found them. In the ice. Brought them back, you lie." Theron roared. "You took them. Your ship brought the storm that swept them away." The male human tried to speak. "No, we crashed. Same storm. She found them. Saved them. Saved them?" Cairo growled. "Why would humans save our cubs? You think we are primitive. Weak. You avoid us. Wait." Mira pushed through the warriors. She knelt beside the cubs. She checked them carefully. Their temperature. Their breathing. Their hearts. She looked at the equipment around them. The portable heaters, the thermal blankets, the careful arrangement. Then she looked at the humans. Really looked at them. The female's hands were badly frostbitten. Her body temperature was dangerously low. The male's injuries were serious. They were both barely alive. Mira turned to Theron. "Brother, look, the cubs show no signs of rough treatment. They have been warmed carefully. Slowly. The way I would do it. These humans are injured, exhausted. This does not look like a kidnapping." "Then what is it?" Theron demanded. The smallest cub made a sound. It crawled away from the others. Slowly, weakly, it crawled toward the female human. It reached her and pressed against her side. The human put her arm around it instinctively. Mira watched this. Then she spoke to the female human. "How did you find them?" The human's voice was barely a whisper. "Thermal scanner, crevasse, 50 meters from here. They were dying. I pulled them out, one. By yourself?" Mira asked. The human nodded. "He couldn't walk. Had to be me." Mira looked at her brother. "Each cub weighs 30 kilograms. 5 cubs, 150 kilograms. She hauled them from a crevasse, then dragged them here through the storm. Look at her hands, brother. Look at her body. She nearly died doing this." Theron looked. He saw the frostbite, the exhaustion, the way the human could barely move. He thought about pulling 5 cubs from a crevasse alone. It would be hard for him. For a human, it should have been impossible. "Why?" Theron asked. His anger was fading. Confusion was taking its place. "Why would you do this? You crashed. You were injured. You should have focused on your own survival. Why risk everything for our cubs?" The human looked at him. Her dark eyes held pain, old pain. "Had a brother. Lost him in the snow. Long time ago. I couldn't leave them. Children are children. Doesn't matter what species." Silence filled the shelter. Theron felt something shift inside him. This human had lost someone too. She knew this pain. And when she found his cubs, she chose to save them, even though it might cost her everything. "You are very small," Theron said slowly. "Very weak compared to us. We thought humans could not survive our world." The human smiled. It was a tired, sad smile. "We're tougher than we look." Cairo spoke up. "Leader, the storm is building. We need to move the cubs to the den, but..." He looked at the humans. "What about them?" Theron made his decision. "The male cannot travel with his injuries. 2 warriors will stay here with him. The rest of us will take the cubs and the female back to the den." "I'm coming," the female said immediately. "Not leaving the cubs until I know they're safe." Theron looked at her. This human could barely stand. The journey to the den would be brutal. "You will not survive the trip." "Survived getting them this far," the human said. She was already trying to stand. "We'll survive the rest." Mira helped the human to her feet. "What is your name?" "Jiwan." "Jiwan," Mira repeated. "You are brave, foolish, but brave." Theron gathered his 3 sons in his arms. The other warriors took the remaining cubs. Cairo and Velra stayed behind with the male human. As they prepared to leave, Theron looked back at Jiwan. "If you die on this journey, human, I will regret it." Jiwan looked at him steadily. "Then I better not die." The journey to the den was worse than Jiwan imagined. The Valkorians moved at a pace meant for their long legs and powerful bodies. They crossed ice fields that would challenge any human in perfect health. Jiwan was far from perfect health. Her legs shook with every step. Her lungs burned in the cold air. The frostbite on her hands sent waves of pain through her arms. But she kept moving. One step, then another. She had not come this far to give up now. Cairo and Velra walked on either side of her. They had been assigned to watch her. Their expressions showed they thought she would collapse any moment. "They were probably right. How did you do it?" Cairo asked suddenly. His translator made his words sound curious. "How did one small human pull 5 cubs from the ice?" Ji-won didn't have breath to answer. She just pointed at her legs, then at her heart. Keep moving. Don't stop. That was all. Theron led the pack. He carried his 3 sons carefully despite his massive strength. Ji-won watched him. She understood him now. He was a father. That was a language that crossed species. The love, the fear, the desperate need to protect. Hours passed. Or maybe it was days. Ji-won lost track of time. Everything became a blur of white. Snow, ice, wind, pain. Step, breathe, that was all her world became. Then they came to an ice bridge. It stretched across a deep chasm. The Valkorians crossed easily. Their large feet distributed their weight. Their strength made the crossing simple. Ji-won reached the bridge and stopped. Her vision swam. Her legs trembled. She took 1 step onto the ice. Then another. The bridge was narrow. The wind pushed at her. Below she could see nothing but darkness. 3 steps onto the bridge, her legs gave out. She collapsed onto the ice. She tried to get up. Her body wouldn't respond anymore. She had pushed it too far. This was the end. Leave her, Cairo said. She is done. We must think of the cubs. No. Mira was already moving onto the bridge. I will not leave her. The bridge groaned. Too much weight. The ice began to crack. Theron saw the danger. He handed his cubs to another warrior and ran onto the bridge. The crack spread faster under his weight. He reached Ji-won and Mira just as the bridge began to collapse. With 1 arm, he grabbed Mira. With the other, he grabbed Ji-won. Then he leaped. 8 feet of powerful muscle launched them across the gap. They landed in the snow on the far side. Behind them, the bridge shattered and fell into darkness. Theron set Mira and Ji-won down carefully. Ji-won looked up at him. She was too tired to speak. But her eyes asked the question. Why save her? Theron looked down at the small human. You crossed ice and storm for my cubs. I will not leave you to fall. Something changed in that moment. Cairo and Velra looked at each other. They had doubted this human. They had thought her weak. But she had earned their leader's respect. That meant something. Can you continue? Mira asked Ji-won gently. Ji-won nodded. She had to. The cubs still needed to reach the den. She forced herself to stand. Cairo moved to support her on one side. Velra took the other. They helped her forward. The den appeared as night fell. It was carved into a mountain. Ice caves that glowed with warm light from geothermal vents. The whole pack waited at the entrance. When they saw the warriors returning with the cubs, they began to howl. But this time the howls were joyful. Parents rushed forward to claim their cubs. Theron's 3 sons were taken gently from his arms by other pack members. They would be cared for, warmed, fed. They would live. Ji-won took 2 steps into the den and collapsed. The warmth hit her like a wall. Her body had nothing left. She fell forward into the snow just inside the entrance. She woke in a small chamber. Warm furs were piled around her. Her hands were freshly bandaged. A fire burned nearby. No, not a fire. A thermal vent. Natural heat from deep in the moon. Mira sat beside her. The Valkorian healer was grinding something in a bowl. She noticed Ji-won's eyes open. You are awake. Good. I was beginning to worry. Mira held up the bowl. This will help with the frostbite. It will hurt, Ji-won tried to speak. Her throat was dry. Mira gave her water. Then Ji-won managed 1 word. Cubs, alive, all 5. Recovering well. They are in the healing chamber. Mira pointed to an opening in the wall. Through it, Ji-won could see 5 small shapes sleeping peacefully. Their breathing was steady. Ji-won felt something release in her chest. They were safe. It had been worth it. Over the next hours, Mira treated Ji-won's injuries. The frostbite was bad but not permanent. Her body temperature had dropped dangerously low, but it was rising now. She would recover. It would take time, but she would heal. The pack is meeting, Mira said while she worked. They are deciding what to do about you. What do you mean? Ji-won asked. You are human. We have never allowed humans in our den before. Some think you should be sent away as soon as you can walk. Others... Mira smiled. Others think differently now. In the main chamber, the pack gathered. Theron stood at the center. His voice carried through the cave. This human saved our cubs. She risked her life, nearly died doing it. How do we respond? An older warrior spoke. She did well, but she is still human, still an outsider. We should return her to her people when she is healed. We owe her that much. But no more. Cairo stepped forward. I doubted her. I thought she was weak. I was wrong. I watched her cross terrain that should have killed her. She never gave up, not once. She has the heart of a warrior. Velra nodded. I agree. She is small, but she is strong in ways we did not understand. Mira spoke last. She lost someone in the snow, just as I lost my cub, just as Theron lost his mate. She knows our pain. When she found our cubs, she could not leave them. That is not weakness. That is strength we should honor. Theron listened to all of them. Then he made his decision. G1 has proven herself. She will be treated as an honored guest. She will stay until she is fully healed. We will help her companion. We will contact the human research station. It is time we learned more about these humans. If one small human can do what G1 did, perhaps we have misjudged their entire species. The pack accepted his words. This was their leader. His judgment was law. Later, Theron came to the healing chamber. G1 was sitting up now. The smallest cub had crawled over to her. It rested against her side. G1's hand stroked its fur gently. Theron sat down across from her. For a while they said nothing, just watched the cub sleep. Finally, Theron spoke. Why did you do it? Truly, you could have died. You nearly did die. Why risk everything for cubs that were not yours, not even your species? G1 was quiet for a moment. Then she told him about her brother, about the avalanche, about becoming a rescue worker, about the children she saved and the ones she couldn't, about the guilt that never went away. When I found your cubs, I saw my brother's face. I saw every child I failed to save. I couldn't walk away. Not again. Even if it killed me, Theron understood. I lost my mate last winter. Another storm. I was leading a hunt. I was not there to protect her. When this storm took my sons, I thought it was punishment for my failure. G1 looked at him. It wasn't your fault. Storms don't care about fault. They just happen. I know. But knowing and believing are different things. Theron looked at his 3 sons sleeping peacefully. You gave them back to me. You gave me a chance to be the father I should have been. You are a good father, G1 said. I saw how you carried them. How you protected them. They're lucky to have you. Theron reached out and placed his large paw on G1's shoulder. It was a gesture of respect among his people. A recognition of equals. You are packed now, G1. You saved our young. That makes you family, always. G1 felt tears form in her eyes. She had not cried since her brother died. But these tears were different. These were tears of healing. Thank you, she whispered. The smallest cub stirred. It looked up at G1 with those yellow eyes. Then it nuzzled closer and went back to sleep. G1 held it gently. Outside, the storm howled. But inside the den, surrounded by warmth and family, she finally felt at peace. 3 days after arriving at the den, G1 woke to urgent voices. The pack was gathering. She sat up carefully. Her body still ached, but the pain was less now. Mira's treatments were working. What's happening? She asked Mira. Rescue mission, Mira said. For your companion. Theron is taking warriors to bring him here. G1 tried to stand. I should go. He's my responsibility. Mira pushed her back down gently. You can barely walk. Let the pack do this. They want to help. The pack left. 6 warriors led by Theron. They moved fast across the ice fields. With their strength and knowledge of the terrain, they reached the crashed ship in half the time it had taken G1. They found Daehyun in the shelter with Cairo and Velra. He was awake and alert. His injuries were stable. When he saw Theron enter, his eyes went wide. G1, he asked immediately. Is she alive? She is well, Theron said through his translator. Recovering. The cubs are safe. We have come to bring you to our den. Daehyun stared. You're helping us. Your companion saved our young. We owe a debt. We will help you both survive. The Valkorians fashioned a carrier for Daehyun. They lifted him easily. What would have been impossible for humans was simple for them. They also gathered equipment from the ship. Anything useful. Anything that could help. The journey back was surreal for Daehyun, being carried by beings he had only seen from a distance, watching them navigate terrain that would kill most humans. He understood now why G1 had nearly died making this trip. It was brutal. When they reached the den, G1 was waiting at the entrance. She had insisted on being there despite Mira's protests. When she saw Daehyun, relief flooded through her. "You crazy woman," Daehyun said with tears in his eyes. "You actually did it. Told you I would," Jiwon said. She was crying too. Over the next days, both humans recovered in the den. Mira treated Daehyun's injuries with the same care she had shown Jiwon. The pack brought them food, kept them warm, watched over them. The cubs grew stronger each day. They played in the healing chamber. Their energy returned. Jiwon watched them often. The smallest one, the one she privately called Little One, stayed close to her. It followed her around the chamber, slept beside her. Daehyun bonded with several pack members. He showed them pictures of his children on a device that had survived the crash. Minji and Taeyang. The Valkorians looked at the images with interest. Children were children, even across species. "They are small," Cairo observed. "But they have your eyes." "They do," Daehyun said proudly. "I can't wait to see them again." To tell them about all of this. Using equipment salvaged from the ship, the pack managed to establish contact with the human research station. The message was simple. 2 humans alive, 5 Valkorian cubs saved. Requesting rescue, the response came quickly. The station commander, Dr. Han-Wol Lee, was shocked. For 3 years, the Valkorians had kept humans at a distance. Now they were offering cooperation. A rescue team would be sent, but the Valkorians insisted on guiding them to the den, a gesture of trust. Before the rescue team arrived, the pack held a ceremony. Theron explained it to Jiwon through the translator. "In our culture, when someone saves a cub's life, they become part of that cub's pack. A bond is formed. The 5 cubs' families wish to honor you." The ceremony was simple but moving. Each cub approached Jiwon. They touched their nose to her hand, a sign of trust, of family. Little One stayed longest, not wanting to leave her side. Theron gave Jiwon a pendant. It was carved from ice crystal, beautiful and delicate. "This is worn by protectors, by warriors. You have earned it." Jiwon took the pendant with shaking hands. She, who had avoided connections for 15 years, now had a family among the stars. Tears ran down her face. "Thank you," she said. "All of you. You've given me something I thought I'd lost. Hope." Daehyun captured the moment on his camera. This was history. This was the beginning of something new. When the rescue team arrived, the entire pack gathered to see Jiwon and Daehyun off. The human team was amazed. They had never been allowed into a Valkorian den before. They had never seen the pack interact with humans like this. Theron walked Jiwon to the den's entrance. The cubs followed. Little One whined, not wanting her to leave. Jiwon knelt down. She held Little One's face gently. "I'll come back." "I promise." "This isn't goodbye," she looked up at Theron. "Thank you. For trusting me. For saving me on that bridge. You saved my cubs," Theron said. "Your pack. You will always have a place here." "I hope this is a beginning," Jiwon said. "Between our peoples." "It is," Theron agreed. "Thanks to you." Jiwon and Daehyun left with the rescue team. As they walked away, Jiwon looked back multiple times. The pack stood in the snow watching them go. Theron raised one paw in farewell. The cubs howled goodbye. Daehyun put his arm around Jiwon's shoulders. "You did something amazing. You know that, right?" "We did something amazing," Jiwon corrected. "I couldn't have done it without you." "So what now?" Daehyun asked. Jiwon touched the ice crystal pendant. "Now we build bridges. Between humans and Valkorians. We show both sides what we learned. That we're not so different after all." 6 months passed. Jiwon returned to Valkor 7, but not as a cargo pilot. She was now a liaison, a bridge between species. She lived part-time at the research station and part-time with Theron's pack. She learned their language, their customs, their way of life. Regular exchanges began. Humans taught the Valkorians cold-weather survival techniques. The Valkorians taught humans how to read the ice, how to move through terrain that had always been impossible. Daehyun went home to Earth, to Minji and Taeyang. But he gave lectures about what happened. He showed the videos he had recorded. He helped humans understand the Valkorians better, helped them see that these aliens were not so different. They loved their children. They protected their families. They honored courage and sacrifice. The 5 cubs thrived. They grew strong and healthy. Little One formed a special bond with Jiwon. Whenever she visited the den, Little One was always first to greet her. The pack had begun teaching Jiwon their traditional hunting techniques, something they had never shared with outsiders before. 1 year after the rescue, the Valkorians created a memorial. It was carved into the ice near where G1 had found the cubs, a sculpture of a small human figure carrying 5 cubs through the snow. The words beneath it were written in both languages, human and Valkorian. They said, "One who walks through ice and storm for our young is packed forever." G1 stood before the memorial with Theron and Mira. Little one leaned against her leg. She thought about her brother, about the pain she had carried for so long. It wasn't gone. It would never be gone. But it had changed, transformed into something else: purpose, connection, family. "Do you miss Earth?" Theron asked. G1 looked at him, at Mira, at Little One, at the pack gathered around the memorial. "This is home now. You're my family." In the distance, the pack began to howl, a song of family, of belonging, of love that crossed species and stars. G1 joined them. Her human voice mixed with their deeper tones. It should have sounded wrong, but it didn't. It sounded like coming home because that was what humans did. They adapted. They connected. They built bridges. They crossed impossible terrain to save those who needed saving. They turned strangers into family. The Valkorians had thought humans were weak, too small, too fragile for their harsh world. They had been wrong. Humans were strong in ways that couldn't be measured in muscle or size. They were strong in heart and will, in the absolute refusal to give up when lives depended on them. That was humanity's true power. Not technology, not weapons, but the ability to look at someone different, someone alien, someone from another world entirely, and see family, to see children who needed saving, and to walk through ice and storm against all odds, carrying them home. The end.